Previously on Axle. It hadn't moved in 12 years. The wife wanted it out of the front yard, and I was just the man for the job. This one just looks like pee. You can see here's where it cracked and broke. It's a weak spot where two pieces get welded. Totally the wrong part number. So got 6 new ones going in. Look at that. Completely stuffed up with rust. As you can see, it still fits in the basket. The only problem is I left my flashlight in there. We put that radiator right here, look at that, and then sprayed it from the backside out. It's leaking out some T-case oil, so we're gonna go ahead and replace that seal. As you can see, I'm done with refreshing the fuel tank. So other than, of course, painting it, the fuel pump was rebuilt. Didn't really do anything with the sender other than clean the gasket, add some Shin-Etsu grease to the gasket to kind of rejuvenate it. And then when we come over here, you can see replaced all of these vapor hoses with new 1/4-inch ID hose. And the new 1/4-inch ID hose that you're likely to find at your local auto parts store, it's a much thicker wall than the original hoses, because this is like fuel injection hose, so it's much thicker wall and reinforced. So that meant having to get new hose clamps too, and there's about 1 billion of them. So all the hoses have been replaced, so we are good to go. We're making progress. Got the axle all painted with rust reformer, then some semi-gloss black. Same thing with the chassis, pretty much from the back to about the midway point is what we did, just because it was easily accessible with the gas tank and the axle out. We figured, you know, might as well clean it up and repaint it while we have access to it, and then maybe one day we'll do the front half, who knows. As you can see, I got the trailing arms and panhard bars refinished, painted them. They came out really nice. And what I'm doing right now, the rubber bushings, I was thinking about replacing them since they're out already with some brand new poly tufts, but they're actually in really good shape, like hardly torn or cracked at all. So I'm just taking this opportunity to coat them in some Shin-Etsu grease, which helps rejuvenate anything made of rubber. It's an awesome product. It's a Honda product. So I'm just hitting all the rubber bushings with that on the panhard and trailing arms, and then they're going back in. Check it out. It's starting to look like a car again. We got the rear axle back in today. As you can see, it's all freshly painted along with the trailing arms. So yeah, tomorrow I think drive shaft, springs, shocks, and we're almost there. Just like with an independent suspension, these rear trailing arms, you want to do your final torque spec when the suspension is loaded. So tires back on, vehicle on the ground. We're going to 94 foot-pounds on these 4 rear trailing arm bolts, 2 per side. And then on the front, I'm going with 100 foot-pounds. Then last step, just hitting everything with the cross-check torque seal. Just makes it super easy to peek under here. Make sure that your bolts haven't loosened up at all. I like using this stuff more than like a paint marker. I'll link this in the description, by the way. I like using it more than a paint marker because it makes like a hard, waxy type seal. So not only is, and it's also like a neon color, so not only is it really apparent when it's broken, but also it's easy to chip it off. You just take like a flathead screwdriver to it, and it just chips it right off when you're ready to, like, you know, undo the bolt and then put a new stripe on there, as opposed to paint marker kind of leaves that line. You got to remember, like, oh, is that the old one or the new one? Whatever. I like this product a lot. Time to bleed the brakes, and I just realized that I don't have any of my brake bleeding stuff, like my special, you know, little tubes that fit over the bleeders. And then I remembered, well, what about the tubing that's on the radiator drain on the end of the petcock? So I removed that, and wouldn't you know, it fits over the bleeder. Bleeding the brakes is really straightforward. Here it is in the FSM. The one interesting thing about it is that there's only 3 places that you bleed. The driver side rear does not have a bleeder, so you go driver side or passenger side rear, then passenger side front, and then driver side front. So hey, it's 25% less work. Without a doubt, that is the worst brake fluid I've ever seen in my entire life. I mean, wow. Well, time for an oil change. We are close to cranking this thing over, or trying to at least, but look how nasty it is under here. Definitely got some leakage up top. Maybe valve covers? Maybe a bunch of other stuff? We'll see. Got my handy dandy flex funnel. Not that bad. I mean, sure, it's dark, but the viscosity doesn't look bad. No water or anything. Sweet. Another good sign about this thing coming back to life. So what brand of oil and filter are we gonna give this beast? Well, I couldn't decide, so I decided just to put everything in it. This is what's going inside. This is a very motley oil change. I've just got a bunch of oil, just little bits left over from a bunch of past oil changes. And so that's what's going in here. Normally wouldn't do this, but we don't even know if this thing's gonna start. And the oil's not gonna be in here for very long. If we do get this thing running, you know, driving, put 100 miles on it or something like that, and then I'm gonna change the oil anyways. So we've got a little bit of this Tim W40 Sin Blend Quaker State. We got some good stuff over here, a little bit of Liquid Moly 5W30, some Pennzoil Platinum 5W30, 5W20 Mobile 1. We'll definitely throw in about half a quart. Yeah, it's about half a quart of Marvel Mystery Oil in the oil, and some 5W30 Super Tech. This one's actually brand new, so that'll be the last one if we need it. And then what kind of oil filter? Well, this car came with this CarQuest oil filter from like 12 years ago or whenever. Tisk tisk, the oil drain bolt does not have a crush washer on it, so let's take care of that now. This is the part number. Gen 1 and Gen 2 are the same. Interesting enough, this also works for the transmission pan drain on a Gen 3 Montero. Alright, I don't know how much gas I have, maybe about a gallon, and this is an EPA gas can, which means I have to use a funnel. So I'm also going to put in a little bit of Marvel Mystery Oil in there, just like an ounce, and then about half a can of the Berryman B12 Chem Tool, which is just a really aggressive solvent to clean out any gunk that might be gumming up the lines. I think we're ready to do this, folks. Check it out. We got the fuel tank. It's been out. We've refinished it. We replaced the fuel filter. We blew out the fuel lines from about that point back. We replaced the rear axle, freshened that up. Didn't check the gear oil. I'm not going to drive it today. I'm not worried about that. We did an oil change. We added coolant, added some power steering fluid. We replaced the spark plugs. I'm not gonna worry about tires. Door handle, that has nothing to do with this. We repainted the axle, repainted the chassis. Not gonna check the trans fluid right now. Throttle body's clean. We cleaned the radiator. Replaced the rear output on the transfer case seal, and we just bled the brakes. We are ready to try cranking this thing over for the first time in 12 years. All right, we got the battery hooked up. I got fire extinguishers all over the place at the ready. I only got about a gallon or so of gas in there, so let's see what happens. I don't know if that's gonna be enough. There we go. She's idling on her own. She's dying down. My foot's not on the gas. She's coming back up. That was unbelievable. Like, kinda. Look at that. Like nothing. Alive. See how bad the smoke is out of the tailpipe.
What's that about?
Looks like we might have a fuel leak. I better shut it down. You guys, we did it. We rescued another Montero. That thing fired up so easily. Once it primed enough to get fuel to the engine, it just turned right on. I mean, we were only able to run it for a few seconds because it's leaking fuel like crazy. Let me show you that. So there's the fuel that was coming out. I looked underneath it, and it's coming from the brand new hose, the fuel pump high pressure hose. Oops, sorry. That guy right there. That's my fault. I thought that it had ends that swivel on the hose, and they don't. And I forced them to swivel. And so what it did is just ruined the crimp. So I'll take that off, run it over to the shop, have them crimp them back on, and then let's see how she runs. While bleeding the brakes, I felt a drop of fluid hit my forehead when I was on the driver's side front tire doing the last bleeder valve, and I looked up and I thought maybe fluid was overflowing out of the reservoir or something, but nope. As you can see, it is leaking from where the master cylinder meets the booster. So gonna need to take off the master cylinder and replace that. Went ahead and pulled the master cylinder and brake booster to figure out what was going on. As you can see, over time, all that brake fluid leaking out of here over all those years just ate away all the paint, not just on the inside of the wheel well, but also, not just in the engine bay, but also on the inside of the wheel well, as you can see. So while I've got the booster and access to this area, I'm just gonna go ahead and clean it up and paint it just so that it doesn't start being exposed to the elements once it finally gets back on the road. If you order a replacement mirror glass for your Gen 1 from Rock Auto, this is what you get. Look at that. It's perfect. Who needs to cover the whole thing? All right, got a new fuel hose. Had the original fuel hose rebuilt again to take care of that fuel leak which happened from the fitting. That was my bad on install. I ruined the crimp when I installed it accidentally. So got that, gonna put that in here, gonna bleed the brakes again, and start this thing up today. Now hopefully this won't be a problem soon. Right now it's March 2023, and right now the only solution if you need your high pressure fuel pump hose replaced is to have the original one rebuilt. But if your fittings aren't in good shape, like this one, these fittings aren't in great shape, but if your fittings aren't in great shape, you're kind of SOL. But hopefully that's changing soon. We are just like weeks away from having samples from a hose factory, and yeah, hopefully this will be a problem of the past soon. All right, well, let's try this again now with that fuel hose repaired, and hopefully we don't have a big fuel leak when we start this bad boy up again. Okay, go ahead and prime it. Oh wait, the fuel pump's not connected. Okay, there's, now that's electrical switch is connected. Okay, go for it. All right, go for it. So far so good. Let me see if she's leaking fuel. Bone dry. Looking good. Let's let that nasty exhaust clean out. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. Axle lives again. Well, we're putting out a pretty good Batman smoke screen right now. Everything is burning off out of this system that hasn't run in 12 years. We've also got a lot of smoke coming out of here. I don't think it's an exhaust manifold crack or an EGR leak. It looks just like a lot of oil that's caked on everything, just burning off. So let's just watch this as it comes up to temp. All right, we're running low on fuel. This thing actually died when it was on an incline because I think it ran out of gas, but we're gonna try making it to the gas station while it's raining. There we go. Drive for the first time in 12 years. Here we go. Brakes, yeah, kind of mushy. This thing is a little bit of a death trap. There we go. Yeah, the brakes definitely need some work still. We just bled them though. Have to see if that brake booster is working. Come on, red light, don't let me die right here. Come on. Please don't die at this big intersection. Come on. Come on, light. Turn yellow. There it goes. Here we go. Yellow light. Red light. Here we go. I'm gonna make it! Home stretch. All right. We have liftoff. Ladies and gentlemen, that is officially the first drive that this vehicle has taken in like 12 years. Look at this thing.